Mike, do we have a cold open for this episode?
Yes, I can sum it up in one sentence. Compassion is greater than empathy in the long run.
Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
Ramsey!
Marshall, so good to see you. And thank you for really, frankly, lowering my workload with a one sentence cold open that I'll edit into this episode once we're done. Thank you. Very helpful.
Well, thank you for being the pre, post, and post production. So much obliged. It is a tight organization we got here.
We do have a tight organization, but this is an episode that I've thought was a good idea, but you really put some good words to it. And just to give everybody a preview, we're going to be talking today about compassion and empathy. And we're going to be talking about it really from the perspective of the customer experience. But stay tuned. We have a future episode planned where we're going to revisit some things. We went back and looked. Episode 14 of this particular podcast. Frankly, it was when we were just YouTube and we weren't even putting it to audio yet. We talked about empathy fatigue from the perspective of employees. So we're gonna get back to that topic very soon. But for now, today is mainly about the customer experience from the point of view of compassion with the customer. So it's going to be phenomenal to talk about this. So why don't you set us up with what we're doing here?
Well, I appreciate that. The idea it struck me. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about empathetic parenting and how bad that is.
Wait, I thought we were supposed to be empathetic.
Yeah, that's what everybody's been telling me for the last 10 years. And they said there's the next step in this thing. Mm-hmm. So you've got empathy, which is on its own not necessarily bad, but if you stop there, it's a problem. Yeah. And it's a problem for the child, right? It's a problem, if you want to look at this from a leadership or customer experience standpoint, it's a problem for the leader and the team member, and it's a problem for the service provider and the customer. And I was like, oh man, I got to take another look at this. Mm-hmm. And I remember Brene Brown talking about sympathy versus empathy, and there was a scale. And the scale of caring started with pity. Yeah. Like, oh man, yeah.
Ain't that a shame?
Yeah, that's bad. Sympathy, right? I hate that for them. Yeah.
Makes me feel a little bad.
Yeah, that makes me feel a little bad. Empathy, and Brene Brown defines empathy as a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice. In order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I've got to dig down in me and be able to see it from their perspective, to feel it from their perspective.
Right.
And then on the far end of the care scale was compassion. Mm-hmm. It's more engaged than empathy. It's I feel that, I have felt that, and I want to help alleviate the suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do something about this.
Right. And so if you think about that, the step from empathy to compassion, empathy is I'm going to be vulnerable and find a place within me that sort of can get in your shoes, see it from your perspective and go, gosh, if that had happened to me, man, I would feel XYZ. I would feel frustrated. I would feel scared. I would feel upset. Whatever is the negative thing that you're trying to be empathetic about with your customer, right? And again, super valuable, right? I'm going to mirror the customer's emotions. It's a great way to build common ground with the customer. I had a general manager of a big campus. I'm sure I've told this before on the podcast, but he got all the heat cases for his automotive dealership campus, and he had the most calm delivery of just listening and saying, huh, okay, uh-huh. And then he would, they would get it all out and he would say, well, if that had happened to me, I'd feel and fill in the blank, right? And it would just, it was amazing. In the short term, he could just take that balloon and deflate it. He would take that steam and just knock it out of the system. The wind's out of their sails.
Oh yeah.
Um, but if you do that, if that's all you do, you're going to feel bad a lot, and it's going to really wear you down. And so we're suggesting there's a step beyond where you're not just feeling something. And this is what's so weird, I think, is actually what you're saying is I might even suffer a little to help alleviate this concern. Turns out that's what the word means. Compassion is to suffer with someone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're spot on in that ability of the manager that you're talking about to take all that in and allow that person to get it out and do it in an empathetic manner. That's a gift, right? Right.
Yeah.
It's teachable. You can teach this as a skill, the
Oh,
active
yes.
listening and things like that.
Yeah.
But then to be able to be the one, and I think this is what we're counting on when we're working with somebody, be it a doctor or the service advisor or anybody that we're sharing our pain with, is we need them to prompt us to the next step.
Yep.
Because many times whoever's going through the pain doesn't have the ability to think about, okay, what else could we do?
Uh-huh.
And I need that person,
Yep.
right? And yeah, you can, yeah, and I've heard it. People say, yeah, they're really nice people over there,
Right.
right? Or yeah, that place, yeah, it's filled with really great people. They can't help me,
Right.
but they seem to care and they're really nice, but they don't seem to be able to fix the whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
so yeah, it's like I like them, but I'm definitely a free agent. I'm going to have to find a place that I also like that can also solve the problem.
Well, now, and I think you've glossed over a middle step, which is I will keep coming back to the nice people and get increasingly frustrated in their face about the fact that they're doing nothing to help me. And the other, the employee knows it, right? And that's where the empathy fatigue sets in, right? They just can't keep welling up this emotion within them without providing some resolution. And so we get burnout. We get employees who are disengaged and super frustrated about being put in this situation where they're not able to take care of the customer. And that's it, right? We're trying. I'm willing. What we're saying with compassion is I, as the employee, am willing to go the extra mile, to do the thing, to suffer with you a little bit to try to make this better. I want to try to truly help you. And so it's a very simple concept, but this shows up in service industries all the time, especially retail, right? This is a thing. We're trying to get us to a place where instead of me saying, I'm so sorry that happened to you, to also say, let's make this right. Let me figure out what we can do for you. That's what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
Oh yeah. Well, and you've seen one without the other. There's the fixers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't need your story.
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
And what they're really saying is, I don't need your pain.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't need all that. All right, here's a couple things we could do. And then what they typically find is that the customer gets even angrier
100%.
or more hurt or more distraught or more
Yep.
right, whatever they're feeling, it seems to ramp up if you don't acknowledge and hear it and even feel it, and then I can move on to the solution.
So let me tell you about a couple mistakes I recently made as a customer, per se. I shorted my state, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, on my taxes. It was an accident. I had one form that was off, and it was my fault, purely my fault. But I didn't know what they were talking about when they sent me a letter that said you owe X number of dollars. And then the very next day sent an additional letter that said you owe X number of dollars plus this interest because you haven't paid us yet. Next day. Next day I got the interest bill as well as the payment. So so I called, can hey, this is what happened. And she didn't even let me finish my sentence. She rattled off on like, here's what you need to do. And I said, yeah, yeah. Well, okay, but I got two letters and I'm wondering why the one has interest in the other. Well, here's the reason, blah, 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 blah. And she launched off again. And you could tell she was sick of answering this question. She was done, right? And she actually not only did she not have any compassion with me, she actually asked me to have compassion with her because apparently the mistake that I made causes them to hand do some of the tax form, and so I had caused problems for her, and and I'm sure I did, and I apologized, and I said, yeah, just how do I pay? And so she transfers me to the lowly credit card taker. And I said, do you have any idea why? And he said, oh, yeah, let me explain that to you. We screwed up and sent out a letter without the interest, and the next day corrected it. And in fact, because you've called so quickly, actually won't owe this whole amount of interest. It'll be less than that. So, yeah, that was our fault. That's all I needed. I needed somebody to go a little extra and tell me that amount, right? So earlier today, I made a big mistake. I left some prescription medicine at Costco. I left it in my grocery cart on the way, back home. And not only did a Costco employee find it in the cart, but they took the effort of calling me to say, "Hey, we've got your medicine. We think this is yours." Again, it's just a little bit of extra effort, right? But we're going to do something to make this right, right? And in this case, it was me screwing up, and they still managed to have compassion, right? So I think when we say compassion and we say the doing something to make it right, it could be a pretty small thing as long as you've done what needs to be done to acknowledge the negative emotions that the customer has, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and the fact that right, you're aggravated because you got two letters.
Yep.
And it doesn't make any sense, which can be aggravating, frustrating, whatever emotion that it brings up into you. But to have them acknowledge, oh yeah, we messed up.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not me.
Yeah, it's not me. Everybody does it. I'm with you, right? So yeah, we're now connecting over this issue, and it's starting to make sense.
I love that. I love that.
We can get to the solution.
Yeah.
One of my favorite commercials, and I don't even know what the product is. The lady's working at the customer service counter. Lady comes back. She's got a stern look on her face, and she walks up the counter and she hands the lady an object, says, "I want to return this." And the lady goes, "Fantastic. Here's your credit." And the customer just stands there and stares at the service rep. And then finally the service rep goes, "Did you want to fight?" And the customer shakes her head, yes. And so it's like, well, we're not taking this back. We have a policy, 3 days, you have to keep it, right? And this lady's like, I demand, that you take it back and do the thing. And they're having this huge fight. And finally the lady's like, all right, here's your credit. And one of them, and the customer service rep says, "Feel better?" And the lady goes, "Yep."
Well, that's a great visual of the calmness of the employee in these situations, right? Like I am in charge. It's like Ritz-Carlton says, "I'm a lady or gentleman helping ladies and gentlemen." I have some agency here. I can help you. Oh, is there something else you need? I can help you with that too. I love that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Full service in that case,
right?
whatever you need. So the idea of if you summed all this up, right, relate and respond.
Yep.
I relate to what you're going through. I can even feel it, and then I'm going to respond in some sort of solution-based fashion.
And this would be empathy and compassion. Relate
Yes.
and respond.
Yeah, relate, empathy, respond, compassion.
Yeah.
And so, the compassion, and we hear this. I hear this from a lot of service providers that they want to connect with their customer.
Yep.
And I think that word connect, right? It's such a big, vague word. I think that's what they're really trying to say is I want to be empathetic with my customer.
Uh-huh.
Understand where they're coming from, get a sense of what it's like to be them, walk a mile in their shoes, whatever it might be. And then, right, because I am the expert here, I'm going to take us in a calm, methodical way through a solution, right, and solve this problem.
So let's tackle the empathy part first. That can, I think the way you said that, right, that's a set of skills, right? Those are things you could train on, such as the active listening, right? Recognizing body language, things like that.
Well, your example of your manager is such a great example. Just the non-verbal, non-word acknowledgments.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is all part of an active listening skill.
Yep.
And so can I recognize the cues, right? The tone, the body language, all those types of things, and not only recognize them, but adapt to them.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight about this. I'm just acknowledging your feelings. I don't have to admit to any fault at this point. I'm just acknowledging, wow, if that had happened to me, I'd be really frustrated.
Oh yeah.
I haven't even said I haven't even said it has happened to you. I've just said if it had happened to me, I'd be frustrated, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the idea, the adage that the customer is always right, not true. The real adage should be the customer may not always be right, but they are always the customer.
That's right.
And so, can I acknowledge that without admitting fault if we're not to blame,
right?
And just acknowledge the feelings. And I love the way you said that, without defensiveness,
right?
Like, hey, whoa, it's not as soon as you start that, it just ramps up.
Yep.
So we can teach those skills, right? We can practice those skills. We can teach those skills. We can role play those skills. We can coach to that. That's pretty cool. The other side of that is the compassion piece.
Yeah.
Right. How do I respond in such a way, to all this emotion that's going on here? So now I've felt what they felt. And then can I stay emotionally regulated? Can I keep control of myself? Because emotions can be contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I see it all the time, right? One person's ramped up, the other person interacts with them. Now I got two people ramped up.
Right.
Right. And you're like, well, that's not going to go well. Can one person, and I've always heard this, right? If you're going to be a great coach, a great leader, a great parent, you have to meet people where they are and then take them to a more productive place.
Say that one more time.
You have to meet people where they are. So maybe there's all this energy, right? I meet that where it is, and then we go to a better place.
You know what that sounds like? Coaching.
Yes.
Right. Like I do that I can do that with a customer though. I can ask the right open-ended questions and be a good listener and meet them where they are and take them to where they want to be. Right. Whatever is within my power to do that. Right. And I think that's a big part of this is, we're helping people develop the skill of stay calm, what's under my control to help address this situation. How can I help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What can I do to help? What else can we do? I have some places that I work with, their motto is find a way to say yes.
Yeah.
And so the idea of, there's a few things we can't do, but let's focus on what we can do.
Love that.
Here's some solutions, right? I can't fix your car now, but I could give you a loaner car and schedule a time to be back in. So what can you do, right? Find a way to say yes to solve whatever's causing this emotion, this pain.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, I should add, I've been learning a little bit about this, but compassion, I said the word means to suffer with, and that is true. The Latin, you think Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, and Easter is, Passion Week. It means suffering. It literally means to suffer with in Latin. The original word, I believe in Hebrew, that is used, often translated as compassion in the Old Testament, is it essentially means to be stirred in the gut. In other words, I'm moved to action. My very body is now motivated to be moved to this, and I that's a mindset. That's a little bit of a mindset that this is that I don't know what I'm about to do, but I know there are some things that I'm going to do to keep myself calm and help this customer address the pain point that I've surfaced. I've definitely reflected and acknowledged the emotion, but I'm stirred to take action and do what I can to help them. So I think that's a big part of this.
Oh yeah. When I hear from people that do this well, they see this as a superpower, and it's one of their strengths that gives them energy. And they like, and you see these folks, they run towards the upset person.
Yep.
And then at the end they're hugging, they're holding hands, they're laughing, slapping each other on the back. Yeah, just it, and the ability to take somebody from that high emotion to cooperation to solution. Yeah, people see that as a superpower, and it is, right? Something they've honed over time, and they take great pride in being able to do that.
Well, there's an analogy you put into the show notes that I really like that goes along with what you just said. And if you don't mind me reading this, empathy is like stepping into someone's muddy shoes. Compassion is grabbing a towel and helping them clean up, right? You're leaving them better than they were. And oh, by the way, we haven't really said this yet, but not only is this going to prevent employee burnout, because the employee feels productive and they've helped, and there's obviously impact that they're having. The customer is more loyal than they would have been if there had never been any mud on their shoes to begin with. Mm-hmm. It turns out that this actually is a way for a company to be more successful if they will recover a customer in this method we're talking about, where they really harness compassion. So it's a huge win all the way around for all parties involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The idea that, empathy is the thermometer.
Yeah.
Right. Empathy is me taking the temperature, and compassion is the thermostat. It's me changing, right? I'm the device that changes the temperature.
I love it.
And makes it a little cooler.
This is very cool. I look forward to our future episode where we talk about what it's like for a manager to do this with employees, because we think that there's a lot of there's an opportunity with management to break out of empathy fatigue as well, and it's causing a lot of burnout. And so we're gonna have that in a future episode, maybe next episode. I'm not sure, but that's coming. So stay tuned.
Teaser, cliffhanger, love it. All right, and on that, we'll throw it over to probably one of the most empathetic people we know.
Come on now.
Take it away, Mr. Wolf.
And that's a wrap. It doesn't take a genius. The blog dedicated to reducing the irreducible. Next time, prime numbers. What makes them so special? Join us then. And thanks for listening.
That's good enough.